Well then, apologies once again. As I was saying, on behalf of the Madrid City Council, there are several of us from the team, and, well, as you know, this is already the fifth plenary meeting of the community. And basically, what we wanted to do with you today, and in advance, what I wanted to thank you all people present for being here with us today, because we know that schedules are very, very tight. So we greatly value the time you dedicate to us. And so, what we want to do with you today is precisely that, to take a brief look at what we have done so far, especially with the emphasis on what we have done this year since the last plenary meeting, and then move on to the presenting to you what ideas we have or what objectives we have for this year. Also, of course, to gather your opinions, and in the end, well, we have a small slot for debate and proposals in which we really would very much like to listen to all of you. So also, as you have already heard, the meeting is going to be recorded, as we do on other occasions, and we will later post on it on the website as well for future reference. Well, the data corresponding to this meeting, the usual information, will be handled in accordance with what is described in the processing of innovative ecosystems, which is the responsibility of the General Directorate of the Citizen Participation, and the details of the processing are available in the meeting announcement. So, to begin, and given that we have, well, we will tell you later, we're also very happy because we have new members in the Participatory Group family. We have two institutions that have joined the group very recently. And so, well, we would like, if you'll excuse me, if possible, for them to introduce themselves later. So, well, without further ado, I'll stop talking since I've spoken a lot, and I'll give the floor to Maria Pia Junquera, our Director General, so that she can give you a formal welcome and a brief overview. So thank you very much, and we hope that today's meeting proves useful to you. Very well. Very well. Well then, he's already said everything, although we couldn't hear you very well. I hope you can hear me a bit better than Luis. Well, welcome everyone. We saw some of you not long ago in Vitoria. And well, to the others, welcome as well. And this is great, right? Very happy to be at this meeting, which, as Luis said, well, it's just another year, the fifth since 2021, when we started holding these meetings, these plenary sessions. We believe that, well, the proof of this journey is that the Participatory Group has been consolidating itself, which is a platform that is now stable, where we continue working every day, trying to improve, and which well, we believe has increased our reach. It's better known, and above all, it's more useful, which is what interests us. As Luis has said, later we will give the floor to the two new members who are debuting in today's meeting. And I hope, I think they're here, right? The government of the province of Cordova and the city council of Móstoles. I can't see you right now. But well, if not, yes, you're there. Gabriel. Very good. Okay, sorry, okay. And well, later we will give you the floor so that you can comment and introduce yourselves to the rest of the group. Regarding, well, our activity, we'll refer to it later and give you some data. But I just want to highlight that it is true that we have participated in some forums at an international level, some very interesting spaces. One of them, as I said, was the meeting we had in Vitoria, which took place within the framework of the Open Government Partnership Summit from October 6th to 9th. And on the October 6th, we were there with a participatory group practices community, both UNED and ourselves, and many of you were there too. We had the chance to see each other, and, well, I think it was a very important moment for our community. With a session whose title Marta chose very aptly, Participation is Not a Game, and which turned out to be a very interesting workshop with a great deal of participation, and which was very dynamic and very creative. We were very happy, and I think it was an exceptional opportunity, well, to take the pulse of our community, to take advantage of our synergies that can arise in these type of meetings, and to also meet other stakeholders, other people beyond our community to whom we were able to present what we did and who we were, our work, and ultimately to encourage ourselves to continue. I also want to highlight other events here in this initial part have also allowed us to exchange best practices in other interesting forums. For example, on May 14th, thanks to Nelson, dear Nelson, We were able to participate in a webinar on international practices organized by the Office of Planning and Participation and the network of participatory municipalities in Portugal with our neighbors, our Portuguese neighbors. Then also, thanks to Jalisco, to the state of Jalisco, which invited us in August 2025 to an event within the framework of World Participation Day. And Luis Rodriguez was there, although on that occasion he connected online and we couldn't travel there, unfortunately. But it was also a very interesting and important forum. And then on the UNED side, there was participation in the Spanish Urban Forum. I think it was Marta Lora, right? Marta? On October 23rd, sorry, of 2025. So he had a very busy October. And well, in this case, as Marta later commented and can explain herself, it was a space that was considered very appropriate for spreading what the participatory group is, and also, above all, for exploring new alliances, meeting people, strategies, and best practices in citizen participation. This is just highlights. This is just highlights. We'll later talk about other workshops, but it's true that it is our commitment to go out to meet other people and to keep growing. Well, without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to the two new members of the community. I have here in the first place to give to the floor to, well, I think it's random, to the municipality of Móstoles, and then to the government of the province of Córdoba. I don't know who has come on behalf of Móstoles. Luis, do you... We can't hear you at all well, Luis. Don't worry. Christina will tell me. We just can't hear you at all well. Just stay there in the background. We'll get cues from you, but don't worry. Don't know what's going on with your. We have Henry. No, yes, Luis. Very good. Well then, Mostoles. Henry, I don't know if you're there. I can see he's connected, but no. Well then, the turn is lost, and we move on. Right? He'll come. He'll be around later. He must have gone somewhere. So let's move on to Cordova. Gabriel, I don't know if you wanted to speak. Good morning. Good morning. Well, for us, good morning. For you, afternoon. We're right here. So, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation to participate. And also, well, we have already sent the letter to become new members and we are joining this activity. The truth is that, well, from Córdoba, we would also like to tell you that Manuel Esnaola is here, who is the Undersecretary of Political Innovation of the Ministry of Local Government. I am the Secretary of Open Government here in the province of Córdoba. And we just wanted to thank you for allowing us to participate. We were very interested when we went to Vitoria and being able to be a part in a discussion space on citizen participation. The first meeting we had was both pro-positive and positive, but also full of questioning, right? Full of questions. And I think that's what is fun, so to speak. And also what will add to our ability to experiment, or also understand where citizen participation is going, or how it needs to be programmed in some way around the world. We talked in the previous meeting about how we had the same problem despite being on different continents. And it also somehow encourages cooperation. So from Córdoba, as I mentioned in the previous meeting, and Manuel also mentioned it, we have many participatory activities. We have a government that works in a participatory way as a management model, a Córdoba model, but we don't have the management model written down in any way, right? We don't have it. We don't have all the citizen participation activities mapped, nor do we have a specific working methodology, but rather each area, based on the way of working that we have here in Córdoba, Argentina, which I also mentioned works very closely with universities. There are two universities in the city of Córdoba. We work very closely with civil society organizations, but each ministry operates in this model with its own methodology. So we have a lot of social work, a lot of productive linkage work with the agricultural sector. We have a lot of work linking with business groups and associations. Yeah, well, the challenge is also to find within all of this an open government and citizen participation model that has a common thread, which we call the Cordoba model. But of course, it has much more room to grow and to be explained more clearly. So, this will help us to understand, as I said before, what is happening at the international level and also locally, of course, but in other parts of the world, and to take that as our own experience and improve our processes, as well as our citizen participation activities. So, of course, as I said, we're very happy to be able to participate here. We hope we can also contribute to this working group and from now on be an active member. So, thank you all. Excellent. Very excellent. Very well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gabriel. And welcome. Regarding Mosteles, in the end, well, they told us that there was a scheduling issue and the Council for Participation has not been able to attend. So, well, Mosteles, for those of you who don't know it, especially those of you who are not in Spain, is a city of just over 200,000 inhabitants located near Madrid. It has a specific department of citizen participation for these projects. It's also a fairly rich ecosystem of participation channels because they have district councils and plenary district meetings. They have a city council, a social council as a participation body, and they also launch participatory budgeting projects. They also told us they do a lot of work with local associations because they have around 330 associations active in the municipality. So we hope that soon they will be able to actively join the community. And nothing more than a very warm welcome to both Móstoles and the province of Córdoba. Does that sound good? Well, before moving on, considering that we have two new members, we have also thought that beside us introducing ourselves, those of you who are here could introduce yourself also. So if you don't mind, I'll give you the floor one by one, and you can say who you are. So we also get an idea of what we're all here today. Antonia Martin from Alcobendas. You're muted, Antonia. You're muted, Antonia. Hello, good afternoon from Mostoles. Oh, Henry, we thought you went there. Please excuse me, but we're in a plenary session, and because of this, the councillor cannot attend at this moment to formally join the meeting. Therefore, he has asked me to convey his apologies, and on our part, we are delighted to be able to actively participate within this new participation group. We believe that this incorporation will allow us to continue the very important work that we have been doing from the Department of Citizen Participation. And finally, just to repeat that in this case, we are in a plenary session, which makes the councillor's active participation very difficult. And on my part, I am available to answer any questions you may have and clarify them. Well, it's a plenary participation process. That's it, we are in a plenary session of the City Council. Of course, well, it's participation by representative groups, the elected ones. Correct, correct. The municipal groups. Very well, very well. Thank you, Henry, for having joined us. We were doing a round of introductions. Another new member spoken. The representatives from Córdoba, Argentina, and now we were doing a round. Luis, who was going to speak first? Yes, hello, good afternoon. Sorry, I couldn't find the microphone button. Well, and thank you again for inviting me, for allowing me to be part of this group from which we learn. We learn a lot from here in Alcobendas, of course. Thank you, Luis, and thank you, Maria. Thank you, Antonia. As for the community of Andorra la Bella, I don't know who we have with us today. So there are two people. Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Perfect. Perfect. Well, we are Yolanda and Patty. We are a technical team for citizen participation. We would also like to excuse the attendance of our councillor, the councillor for citizen participation. In this case, who is like the deputy mayor, and she had other commitments. Well, we have been somewhat disconnected because also with the change of administration and also adapting to the new ways of working, it hasn't always allowed us to be as aligned as we would like. But we wanted to attend the plenary session to continue following a bit what this group creates and generates. So thank you. Oh, thanks you, and delighted to see you again. We also have Christina here. Christina from Arroyo Molinos. Hello, good afternoon. Yes, from Arroyo Molinos, and always delighted to be with you. Welcome to both Córdoba and Móstoles. You know, Móstoles is our closest neighbor and the largest municipality in Madrid by population. So we're also delighted they're here with us because, well, it all adds up. So we're delighted. Thank you very much, Christina, and thank you for participating with us. And, well, since you're also a councillor in the municipality, your schedule must be packed as well. We also have Francisco Martinez, Francisco from the region of Murcia, right? Indeed. Good afternoon and welcome to the new participants. We are an autonomous community, but we are a single province, and we feel a bit like municipalities. We will continue learning a bit from your practices to see what things we can apply. Thank you very much, Francisco. And we hope, well, we're already preparing some activities for the coming weeks and months, and we hope they are useful and of interest to you. Javier Munoz from the Community of Madrid. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Javier Munoz, head of the Transparency Area, the General Subdirectorate for Open Government and Transparency. First of all, I convey to you the apologies of Rocío Ferro, my Subdirector General, who has not been able to attend due to scheduling issues. And well, here we are again, as Francisco Martinez said, to learn because well, we're also at the beginning of our endeavor. Thank you all. Thank you very much to you as well for attending the meeting. I'm going more or less in order in which you appear in Zoom. Luis Vidal from Zaragoza. The image is frozen. No, no, it seems that it isn't. We'll come back later to see if we can connect. We also have Mariela Neuer here. Mariela, good afternoon or good morning. Hello, good morning. Here we are in Buenos Aires. Yes, Buenos Aires. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's the first time we're participating. I'm the Director General of Citizen Participation. So it's a pleasure to be taking part in this forum. Welcome. Thank you very much, Mariela, for continuing because Buenos Aires has been a member from the beginning. The truth is we've always had a fabulous relationship with all your teams. So welcome. But yeah, I have only very recently been in charge of the directorate. We're right now in a moment of growth, of closeness, accompanying the head of government every week directly, in contact with residents, neighborhood by neighborhood, district by district. So in a moment of considerable vitality. Thank you very much, Mariela. Miquel Parola, one of our long-standing regulars as well. That already gives me a certain status as an older person, and I don't like that. Sorry, Miquel, but that's how it is. We're all the same. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Parola, Director of Good Governance and Political and Social Innovation at the Provincial Council of Guipúzcoa. People here in Spain know us, but for those who are in other countries, Guipúzcoa is one of the 3 provinces of the Basque Country in the north of Spain, probably population-wise a bit smaller than Vizcaya. We are 700,000 inhabitants and we are still a smaller local entity. We are not a municipality, we are a provincial council, but we are a small local entity. And in that sense, to all of those of you who have spoken previously and have said that thing about we come here to learn, I'm sorry. You come here to learn and you come here to contribute. Because all of us, with even as little as we can do, have a lot to contribute. So we're all here to show what we do and to listen to what others are doing. So we have to be positive and we have to contribute. Very good. Yes, indeed. Very good. That really was a positive message. Thank you very much, Mikel. As always, the next person that appears on my list is Paul Freeman Velasco. Nice to meet you. A pleasure. Don't know if you can hear me very well. We can hear perfectly. Yes, nice to meet you. A pleasure. Well, I'm participating expressly on behalf of Dr. Victor Juarez, who is the head of the Office of International Technical Cooperation of the Municipality of Lima. He is currently on an errand in a meeting, so he asked me to participate on his behalf. And well, we are very interested, as was pointed out before, in being able to share experiences, to learn from you, and for you to also learn from us. Nice to meet you. Very good. Thank you very much for attending, and thanks to your whole team for taking part in the participatory group. Rafael Valderizo, Rafael from Valladolid. How are you? Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Well then, on our side, we also want to greet you. We are delighted to follow this community's work as closely as possible. We would like to contribute more, to be a bit more active, but well, right now we're also in a process of changing our approach, although it isn't very significant. We have a long track record of citizen participation here in Valladolid from many years ago, and we continue advancing along that line. It's true that we face, as I think happens to all of us, a new situation, a new social and community context, which we have to adapt to. Well, our general objective is to try to ensure that people are able to contribute as an altruistic, generous way to improve the dynamics of the community, right? This is proving really complex too, I believe. The impact of new technologies and, let's say, the social political dynamics in which we are immersed at the moment, well, it affects us, frankly. I think that somewhat old fashioned attitude that we defend, that people participate selflessly, uh, I don't know if it's the one that at this moment is becoming established in general. But well, we're there, expectant, trying to learn, trying things out. Right now, we are starting a new edition of participatory budgeting that we will develop throughout 2026 so that the proposals that are agreed upon can be implemented in 2027 and 2028. I won't go any longer, and thank you very much for this initiative. Thank you, Rafael, and thank you, Valladolid, for being here. I think I have two people left, which would be Ramiro from Fuenlabrada. You muted yourself several times, Ramiro. Now, sorry. You will let me, sorry. It seemed like the sound wasn't muted. Good afternoon to everyone from Spain. Good morning to Latin America. I'm Ramiro, as Luis was saying, representing the chair of citizen participation of the City Council of Fuenlabrada. I would like to excuse the absence of the first deputy mayor and councillor for citizen participation, as well as the director general. In Fuenlabrada, we have been working for 2 years on drafting the new organic regulation on citizen participation, which is at the moment, well, it's in the oven, ready to start the public consultation procedure or process. I'm available to any of the attendees if you want questions, comments, and so that we can help regarding everything that the whole process of drafting the regulation has involved. And as our colleague from Valladolid was saying, from Fuenlabrada, there are some initiatives that I think may also be interesting to you, such as the Coexistence Roundtable or the Fuenlabrada Solidarity Network, which in a way seeks to strengthen everything that is the social fabric and the activism that exists in terms of participation in a municipality that is the third in population in the Community of Madrid, which has a level of intercultural diversity that is extremely high, right? With more than 100 different nationalities in the municipality. Many thanks for everything. I'm here at your disposal. Thank you very much, Ramiro. And lastly, and now, well, I have here under control Isuka Palau from Santa Coloma de Gramenet. Isuka, good afternoon. Hello. Can you hear me? Yes, perfectly. Oh, excuse me today because I had a meeting that finished late and well, I'm going to explain these things to you. Very well. Welcome, Isuka. Thank you. Very well, welcome. I don't know if we're leaving anyone else, because some people joined a little later. If there's anyone who hasn't introduced themselves. Hello, yes, Miguel Angel. Hello, yes. Can you hear me? Yes, okay, perfect. Look, I'm Miguel Angel, head of the Citizen Participation section of the City Council of San Sebastián de los Reyes, a municipality now close to 100,000 inhabitants. We are part of this participatory group in which we share these initiatives, these challenges, these problems that we sometimes have jointly across different municipalities. We were also, like the previous colleague mentioned, perhaps in an early stage in drafting the new citizen participation regulation, which we have proposed within the municipal plan as a regulation to renew, since the one we currently have is quite old and needs to be adapted to the new time. In it, of course, we have the challenge of the city social council, the district councils, etc., etc. So we hope that in the next year and a half, we can carry out, at least try to get it approved and put it into operation, at least partially, part of the regulation. And that's it. A pleasure to be part of this group. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Miguel Angel. I think Bruno has just joined a minute ago. I saw him, Bruno Caputo. I think you're Bruno from Buenos Aires, right? Are you? Yes. I'm from the City of Buenos Aires team, together with Mariela. I'm the Chief of Staff of the General Directorate. Well, thank you very much. Well then, as you can see today, we have a varied ecosystem. Hello, someone said hello and wants to speak? Anyone else? Anyone else there? Hello, I'm Luis from Zaragoza. Ah, Luis Vidal. Earlier you were frozen. Yes, I had connection problems. Disconnected and reconnected. Just to greet all the members of the group, and welcome to the new additions. I'm sure you'll find the video repository available through the group's website portal a treasure in terms of documentation. And I want to highlight it and to keep contributing, each of us from where we are in our cities. In Zaragoza, I now work in the Office of Data Governance, so it is no longer the Participation, Transparency and Open Government Office, which was the unit through which we joined the group. But I do keep working on convincing the colleagues who are now in another participation area of the benefits of this group, because of how interesting it is and what we can learn from one another. That's the thing, right? So apologies for the low participation in these recent moments, but now, as a data governance office, we are more focused on digital transformation topics, on applying artificial intelligence in another more digital part of participation. But whenever I can, I will connect, even if afterwards, even if I can't because of all the meetings, all the sessions, and so on. The truth is that they're all very enriching. That's all very good. Thank you very much, Luis. The truth is that it encourages us greatly when, from time to time, you make these comments, because it is true that we are very happy with the project. Also, receiving positive comments from you also really encourages us. So I don't know if there's anyone else who hasn't introduced themselves. Well then, thank you very much. And we move on to the next intervention. Maria Pia, I'll give you the floor again so that you can explain in more detail everything we have. I mean, repeat, right? Well, look, it follows a bit from what our colleague from Zaragoza just said, right? To talk a bit about all those workshops he said were wonderful. And the truth is that they are wonderful. And we have to give thanks. I want to thank all the work that is done, the excellent work that is done, and also the people in my Directorate General who are always on the front line with all of this. The truth is, I really do encourage people to watch them, because they are, well, what's good about them is that they're open to any person who wants to watch them. They can be watched at any time, They're very agile, and as I say, it's like the podcast you put on during a short trip when you're going somewhere, and you learn something new from everything. Because in the end, it's very difficult to find. It's very difficult for us to invent new things, and you start putting the puzzle together in relaxed moments. You connect some with others, and you do well. Like if you do your Sudoku, it turns out you have a new creative idea for one that was based on those experiences of others, right? And besides, knowledge never takes up space.
I'll summarize very briefly the data that they've given me here on a little cheat sheet. We have already developed in the community of practice up to 24 expert workshops. 12 work groups have already been launched. We have published 78 outreach pills, and these include trainings and other topics of interest in video and audio, as well as additional content, such as best practice sheets that each of you have been sending us, selecting in a way the best practices from your entities and from your governments. So what have we been doing since the last plenary meeting? Since November 27th, 2024. Well, in this year, we have had 4 expert workshops and 3 work groups, more than 166 participants in all of them. Also, 11 outreach capsules, although I think you wanted to change the name of capsules, but we've kept it here. People didn't like it very much, but I do like it. I won't change. I'll change if you want. 11 outreach capsules, specifically 4 television studio interviews, and 7 radio programs. These are very interesting, and as I say, I do encourage you to watch them. And we have also participated in international events. I've referred to 4 of them, but we have also, on our side, had visits from multiple delegations, and we always take the opportunity to promote this community. We have received the Republic of Uzbekistan, Turkey, the metropolis of Compagnie, the municipality of Querétaro, and an American delegation that came with the World Bank. In short, a great many people come to see us. UNED, for its part, has also held its own meetings. Marta Susana can comment on that later. And within these outreach activities, which the UNED helped us with, at express speed but with great quality, to finalize a dossier of the activities from the past year. It is published on the website, and some of you have it because you were in Victoria, and we brought you a printed publication. If you are interested, we have copies that we can provide. Just let us know by email and we'll send them, because we believe it is also very useful material for your work teams. And then you will have seen the dossier, though those who have not, I will explain. It consists of a listing of the workshop, a brief description, and a QR code. So the menu the menu card, you choose the menu you feel like choosing at the moment, and it is another way. The website is very intuitive, but this is another way to have it on paper so that more people can view it. So the invitation stands. Those of you who need or want printed copies, just ask us for them until the stock runs out, as they say in these promotions. That is by request list. And then a very important topic that I also have noted was the MOOC on citizen participation. We are fortunate to have a university. We're fortunate to have the UNED with professors. They are very good professors. They do an excellent job when speaking in public and with students. And they created a MOOC on the ABCs of participation, which might seem very basic, but I loved it. That truly became my podcast. I read it. I listened to it during the Holy Week on my walks, and the truth is that it is very good because there are basic things, obviously, but many times we act on intuition in many areas. And there they were just laying it out like good teachers, some of the main points of how you should act. So, no matter how much experience you may have in citizen participation, or how much experience we may have in open government, it never hurts to revisit the ABCs of. I think it was extended, right? It was extended for 1 year, and now the UNED confirmed us just yesterday that they are going to extend it for 1 more year. Extension is 1 year, yes. Okay. So 1 more year for this edition. So why is this good? Not only for you to watch it yourselves, but also for your staff, those who may want to watch it. Well, because it is a training, right? I believe it is training and it's important, and it's available to you. Later, of course, Susanna will talk to you about some other new developments because it is going to be done, but Susanna will explain it very well. Something a bit more specific, a bit more advanced. Now, for those of us who have already done the first one, we need a little more, of course. So, Vera, I think that's basically everything I have to tell you. As you can see, there is a lot of work, a lot of enthusiasm, but now I think it's my turn to stop talking so much and listen. So thank you all very much. Thank you very much, Maria Pia. Very well, then, Antonio, Susana, Marta. I'll now pass the ball to you since Maria Pia has spoken for a while. Now it's your turn to tell us a bit about what we are going to have on our hands over the coming months. Very well. Thank you very much, Luis. First of all, good afternoon to everyone who is participating in this participatory group. It's a pleasure to be all together thinking and sharing the past, the present, and the future. With regard to the future, 2026 is going to be an exciting year. It is a year, it's a very interesting year. At the local level, it's a pre-election year, right? That is, we're heading into a very interesting dynamic to really see the role of participation. As you already know, as every year and as part of the dynamics of this project, we have, on the one hand, expert workshops, and on the other hand, working groups. And on a third hand, the training capsules, which are the ones Maria Pia mentioned just now. These are the video recordings or radio interviews, right? So the topics we want to address this year, after testing many of them with those of you here and based on the fantastic experience we had in Vitoria, are the following. In the expert workshops, so what concerns us? Well, for example, participation in the child and youth sphere. Secondly, nature-based solutions, right? How we can address and participate in a way that integrates nature into our participation dynamics. We also want to work with the Fuenlabrada, with Fuenlabrada, because they have a very interesting coexistence roundtable. And in addition, they are now launching their participatory regulation, which involves a whole public participation process. We also want to give an opportunity this year to participation dynamics in the local environment, both in local setting and in intermediate or small cities, and also in schools of citizen participation. We also want to work on specific participatory methodologies, such as those of the Integrated Institute, that is, specific emerging dynamics of co-design and participation. And of course, to address participatory processes of urban rehabilitation, participatory processes in emergencies and catastrophes. For example, the project related to the wildfires in Viña del Mar. We have many topics here. In the working groups, what do we want to address this year? Well, we want to address some working groups on very important issues. For example, associations as a collective, which, also share specific problems such as difficulties with generational renewal and so on. We also want to work on participation channels, tools, platforms. For example, in the digital sphere, right? Catalogs of participatory tools, participation platforms that different cities, autonomous communities, municipalities inside and outside of Spain are organizing, and of course, participation systems. Finally, we are going to work on these issues of how to co-design proposals between the administration and citizens. Finally, in a broader sense, all of this, as you can see, are topics that correlate with recordings, radio programs, television programs, because we have some interesting topics here. Some of them are very specific, and I'm very glad that we have a colleague from Lima, because we have thought about one topic, for example, in the Spanish context. Spaniards who have emigrated abroad organize themselves in many places in what are called houses of Spain or houses of their autonomous community. And in the case of the House of Spain in Lima, which is directed by Carlos Campoy, they're developing many participatory activities, and it seems very interesting to us. For example, to interview him. We also want to interview specialized people who are leading participation programs with older adults in emergencies and volunteering, and especially with people with disabilities. Or, for example, what is the participation of these groups, right? We had also thought, for example, of a specific person who is the president of the Society for Studies on Down Syndrome in Spain, named Elena Gil Clemente, and also to work with projects such as those being developed by the Cabildo Gran Canaria around the participation Gran Canaria. As you can see, a large number of topics that are really very interesting, which we could group into an area of participation tools and channels, the area of specific problems and specific groups to mobilize or give visibility to, and then the area of situations, emergencies, catastrophes, situations of isolation affecting very specific groups. And well, there is one topic that is new this year, but participation is a classic, right? And that is building on the mark we did on participation this year. We're moving toward a mark that will be about participatory budgets. But the person who really knows about this is Susana Viñuales. Susana, if you would like to explain, please. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Antonio. And well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the newcomers. It is a pleasure to be here to see familiar faces again after so many years, and others who are joining this community. All of these activities, all of these programs that we have often respond to, things that you yourselves have asked for, that interest you. Therefore, I believe this continues to be very important. That on every occasion, we have you share with us, and then there is a small surprise that I won't anticipate. What interests you, what concerns you, and which issues you might like to explore in great depth, or where you might need more training or information, or need to rely on experiences from other municipalities, because that is precisely where we act a bit as intermediaries. So, in this overall planning, in addition to bring in experts who share their experiences, we have working groups where we raise issues of concern and where things can be discussed openly because they are not recorded. And we can debate and discuss and also see the negative aspects of all this may have, right? In addition, I think it's also important to have a training line. And here, the video capsules, the training capsules, are one part of that. And we also have this training model, which is what is called a MOOC, which you all probably know about, right? From the English initials, meaning Massive Open Online Course, which are free courses. You only have to pay a small amount if you want to obtain a certificate, but otherwise they are free courses. And through the university, we have all the necessary platforms to be able to run these courses with all the activities, the video classes, and even additional documentation and bibliography to be able to go deep into the subject. So we did this first one on the ABCs of participation, which was precisely an introduction. Starting from the concepts of foundations of participation, some of you may already have seen it. For those who have not, I'll briefly explain. It starts with the foundational concepts, mechanisms, all the participation tools, and then the participatory methodologies. Three main blocks with video classes that are not very long, precisely, so that they're easy to listen to. It has been quite successful. We have reached nearly 500 people who have viewed it. Therefore, we have thought that since it has so much interest, we're going to extend it for another year. At least one more year, I think. I don't know if another will be possible, but at least one for sure. And while this ABC of participation is being extended, we are building, which is also a bit of a preview for February, another more specific one on participatory budgets. This tool is somewhat paradigmatic within the world of participation, and that is why we wanted to create a specific one. It's not that it requires a very high level of knowledge, it is also a course meant to help understand, and we've called it Keys to Understanding Participatory Budgets. That is, many of you may already have experience, but here there is a global overview, and if staff join to work in participation or are not familiar with it, these are precisely those foundations and theoretical concepts that must always be behind the experiences and accompany them, because it is important to have them, of course. Well, I won't reveal too much because it will already be active starting in February throughout the whole year until the end, until December, really, until mid-December. But there you will be able to learn a bit about what participatory budgets are, their concept, their foundations, how they have evolved, the main experience around the world, and how they have. Then there will be a specific module on budgets in Spain to see what the regulations are, the entire legal and regulatory framework that governs them, which is also important to take into account, and how new trends have developed. Then we will look at the two models of participatory budgets, a kind of standard model in an in-person format, that is for anyone who wants to develop an in-person participatory budgeting experience, outlining the main phases, and this will be complemented by new trends through digital means. Digital platforms, such as when we explain the case of the Madrid City Council. which I think is of great interest and success. Therefore, as an example, not the only one, obviously, as there are many more, but it's very interesting to see how it is carried out as a model. A model which we would call hybrid, because it's not only digital, but also combines the possibility of participation through in-person mechanisms. So this is a broad summary of the content, but you'll have it available. We will post it. We'll post a link on the participatory website starting in February, from early February. And I hope that you'll like it and that you're able to learn from it. Thank you very much, Susanna. The truth is, the information is very good. And it's also an initiative that I think, if it has the same success as the other mock course we did, which was nearly 500 people, then honestly, it seems to me that it is an important one. Because in such a specific field as ours, actually having 500 people who have heard about the initiative, who have been interested, and have signed up to take this course, honestly, seems to me quite a remarkable initiative. And so we hope that the new one we're going to launch, achieves the same level of success. So congratulations on the work. Well, we also remind everyone to please feel encouraged to take it and to share it. And also that it is a iterative process. You move from topic to topic, answering questions. You jump along until, in the end, you obtain recognition for having completed it. It is very dynamic. It's free, in inverted commas, and I think it is a magnificent contribution to popularizing the basic concepts of participation. Nelson has indeed joined us. Nelson, we mentioned you at the beginning in a very positive way. Welcome. Well, if you would like to introduce it, sorry, he's the great expert on participate budgeting, so everything fits. Everything. Yeah. Now comes Nelson. It all fits. Well, hello. Good afternoon. Sorry for being late. But I was in another meeting, and that's why I've managed to join only at the beginning. So I'm delighted to see you all and see how this group continues, how its dynamic grows, and with the new developments for the coming years. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. The truth is, for those of you who don't know him, Nelson is a very modest person. He is the main coordinator of an association called the Office of Planning and Participation Association of Portugal, which coordinates many Portuguese municipalities, and they're also doing work at a global level. In fact, well, Nelson has had recent stays in Cap Verde and in Sao Tome and Principe. And have some very interesting initiatives, such as hosting a World Annual Assembly on Participation, budgets, and they also have wonderful experiences. For example, with a topic that has really caught our attention. We did an activity some time ago. I was just saying that Nelson told us about an initiative, beautiful initiative called Territory Caretakers, which is a co-design initiative in which the residents of the municipalities become co-responsible for monitoring and oversight. So it is a participatory process that is beautiful. So, well, thank you very much for belonging to this group. We're delighted to have you with us. Thank you very much, Luis. Thank you very much as well. Well, then, we had now planned a small activity to move into the debate, where what we basically want is to listen to you, because we have already spoken quite a lot. And at the end of the day, this is an initiative, a participation group. So now it is our turn to listen to you. And we wanted to propose first to launch a small survey using this tool called Mentimeter. And now they will paste the link here in the chat. Yes, I'm going to share with you a bit what we wanted to do, which is simply to ask you two questions that will also help us move into a short debate afterwards. So a couple of little questions. I'm going to share my screen. In Mentimeter, you'll find two questions. The first one we wanted to ask: which topics do you consider to be of interest for carrying out an activity? We have made a topic plan that Antonio Lopez commented on earlier. But in any case, we do want to listen to you, because many times you have given us hints or concrete interest in things you want us to And the next question you will see is, well, what good practice or experience in participation would you like to share? Because here, for example, we have a case of someone who could not come today, which is the government of the state of Nuevo León in Mexico, which has just received an award precisely from this OGP Challenges for its platform, its citizen participation system. So, for example, it is a very interesting initiative that today we have not been able to have, but is an example of a project, a good practice that we're going to try to share with you now during the year. So, we would like, if in a couple of minutes you could answer these two questions, that is, what topics of interest you have and some good practice you would like to share. So I'll leave you a couple of minutes. Let's see what else comes up here. It's already starting to appear. You're already responding. Thank you very much because you are already answering. So, well, as you can see, topics are coming up, such as regulation, participation rules that govern participation in local administrations, topics of international cooperation, child participation keeps appearing, urban projects, digital tools. Another interesting topic appears, which is the topic of evaluation, which we already did a couple of years ago. We did a couple of activities on participation evaluation that were very nice. Well, one of them, excuse me, was with the government of the state of Jalisco. But as you can see, many things are coming up. This also gives us a lot of information so that later we can, as we said before, as Jeanette said before, help you and really run activities that truly provide you with value. The topic of ethics, for example, ethics, if someone wants to comment on it later, because it is a topic that has not come up for us so far. So now in the debate, if you feel like commenting a bit on everything you are putting here, schools of participation, associations, evaluation, measurement of processes, many things are coming up. I don't know if in the next one we will also have some responses. In terms of sharing initiatives, you mentioned participation regulations. Decide Madrid Joven, which is a participation portal dedicated to the child and youth group that we are doing here in Madrid. The Coexistence Roundtable, which I think that is the initiative that was mentioned earlier. Uh, I can hear you badly from time to time. I see you. Sorry, because I changed networks again. No, don't worry. We heard everything, but from time to time it cuts out. If you want, Maria Pia, if you want to comment on any of the... No, yes, I was going to point one out. Okay. Yes, right. Let's see. I think all of these are interesting. You mentioned ethics. Well, yes, as a principle of open government, I think it is the first of all of them. Definitely. I don't know whether now we then go further and start talking about other higher level principles, but it is certainly fundamental. And here, people are writing repositories of good practices, participation of immigrants. Come on, I'm going to put one in. Let's see. I would indeed encourage you to do that. When we move into the debate, I would encourage you a bit to express, well, everything you have been commenting and to share with the rest of the community, both your interests and also those good practices that you think would be interesting to share. I'm going to share. Luis, Isuka wanted to speak. No, just a clarification. It's that since the application does not allow more than 3 or 4 words, I wanted to explain a bit that when I write, obviously, what we have been doing this year is sharing good practices. I was not referring so much to more good practices, but for example, there are many bodies, both in Latin America and here in Spain, that select good practices and publicize them in publications and so on. Perhaps we could hold a conference with representatives of those different bodies and learn about the good practices they have awarded from their point of view, because they are participation experts who evaluate them. I'm speaking, for example, about the Piscina Foundation in Catalonia, which evaluates according to a series of parameters that I think are very interesting for us to analyze together. Perhaps it would be possible to convene a small conference with these people as speakers and to do this. That's why, since I could only write repositories of good practices, I want to explain it. Thank you. It's impossible to explain in 3 words on Menti. And Isuka, I think it's a spectacular idea. And it would also give Participatory Group a new projection. And that is precisely what Maria Pia was talking about and what we were looking for. Positioning ourselves internationally with the underlying work we have carried out over 5 years. As Luis Vidal from Zaragoza said, that we have an entire repository that we can bring to light and showcase precisely here. So, well, I think it's a fantastic idea. We'll start working on it and thinking it through. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to analyze a bit all of this that you've commented, but I would like, as I said before, since we have already spoken a lot, to give you a bit of the floor now. Well then, Marta, Susana, Antonio, I think it's the moment to start a debate. I don't know if anyone besides what Isuka commented, which I find very interesting, wants to open the floor. Should we project what has been said so that because you're not projecting it now, and that way people are also feel encouraged to comment on it, and then we can sort of guide them. Isuka, you have your hand raised. I mention it in case you don't want to speak now. Okay. Actually, the first and the second are not really the same. Because the first, they are topics of interest to carry out some activity this year. And then the second is really a good practice that already exists, right? That's it. Yes, that's it, right. A specific practice. Very good. It was also a way to break the ice, because as you know, sometimes in these online meetings that are so large, it can be a bit hard. Antonia had raised her hand. Go ahead, Antonia. Well, I'm Antonia, for those of you who have joined recently, and for those earlier on where I didn't introduce myself properly. Sometimes rushing isn't good. Well, I'm the participation coordinator at Alcobendas City Council. I also apologize on behalf of my councillor, Fernando Martin, and my director, Javier Artegal, who many of you know, who unfortunately cannot attend this meeting. Well, for me, for my department, and for the team I work with daily, the fundamental question that concerns us is how to get people to participate. In Alcobendas right now, in the 2 years we have had in this new term, many channels have been enabled, many one-to-one channels. Let me explain. For instance, the mayor receives residents every Wednesday individually. The district councillors and Alcobendas, there are 3 districts, each with a reference councillor, personally respond by phone or email to residents who want to submit their suggestions, complaints, contributions, or whatever it may be. We've created forums that are indeed participation forums on specific topics where people participate in groups. But now what is happening is more that one-to-one participation, and we are finding it difficult to convene, for example, a district assembly, which our regulation, by the way, we're also revising and adapting to new forms and new needs. Our regulation now requires that we hold an annual district assembly. We've gone from having 60 people last year to having 15 this year, which, not too bad. Sometimes 15 people is also not too bad. But it is true that this drop in participation leads us to consider that we have to improve. And I'm not saying what are we doing wrong, though that too needs reflection, but rather what we have to improve so that our residents want to come to an open, in-person space where the district councillor listens to them and where they actually have an interest going. And that is our challenge, our biggest challenge. The regulation we are revising now, which is from 2018, and which also needs an important overhaul, we have it's quite advanced, and we have tried to create a regulation that is adapted to the things we do that are not included, adapted to what the population demands in this context that I'm describing. And I don't know if the solution is to hold more online meetings, because people don't want to leave their homes at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. And that's true, that's real. That is also on the table. But I don't know if that is the only reason, or if people already have other individual mechanisms to contact their city council, and therefore they don't want to participate in municipal management, which is, well, ultimately what we aim for. I'll just put that out there as our fundamental challenge. Sorry, I'm not even talking about integrating groups that young people, older women, immigrants. I'm not even talking about the other population, which of course is also in our thoughts. But if we can't reach some, imagine how hard and complicated it is for us to reach others. Thank you. The truth is, I love listening to you, Antonia, because it's a very relevant problem. There are, for me, 3 very big problems here. One is the decline of associations and the lack of renewal. Another is the groups that do not come close. And third is the expectations people have, right? So, for example, I don't know if it helps, but we won a big European project in Fuenlabrada called SER to create intergenerational housing. And around that intergenerational housing, where older people will rent their flats at a low price, guaranteed by the city council, and they will receive housing in a former school, adapted, and so on, we have generated an intergenerational dynamic. And there really is a massive participation from people who are discussing how it will be done, who attend meetings, who sign up. So there isn't a magic wand for this, but it is true that we have to rethink the opportunity people have to decide, to participate. We have to think how to bring them closer. And of course, if it is only about meeting in person, new generations meet online as well. It's different now. But anyway, it's a topic to discuss this year. Thank you, because it is a burning issue. And I'm going to copy your idea of those intergenerational spaces, because sometimes it's about finding the right trigger, the topic or situation we want people to collaborate on. And we also struggle to find that trigger, that topic. We have the project here. Ramito's here, who is the technician. We also have, he's a researcher and he's also in Fuenlabrada with us. And we can present the project to you whenever you want, especially because this isn't private property. It's so that we can all learn from one another, right? To share. And there, with a clear objective, the intergenerational dynamic in Alcobendas has to be a key factor, as it is in Fuenlabrada right now. Look, I'm already thinking, since it's such a huge topic for a work group, I think it would be fantastic, since you are so involved, to explain from the inside. Not that the project, as it is sold externally when you go to a conference, but for the technician to tell the day-to-day management, what has worked well, what hasn't. So a million thanks, Antonia, because it's key. And Mikkel, we're going to let Mikkel speak. She can't, sorry. But don't worry. If you'll allow me, Antonio, to turn the tables, we are talking about what we have to do to encourage participation. I sent a question to Luis, I don't know in Mentimeter, but something occurred to me and I asked the question. The question was along the lines of, can we link or can we unite citizen participation and community action? What communities do we have? I'm not only talking about the associative fabric of civil society that is organized. How are we reaching those who are absent? How are we reaching all those groups that do not come near us? And that's good, because we don't allow ourselves to bring them closer. Because just as in the chat a colleague shared, we continue with participation models and processes that are very aimed at certain groups of people. And by definition, we ourselves make it impossible for many people or many groups to participate. How do we have, as I was saying, those communities? How can we strengthen those communities? Because if they are strengthened, it will surely be possible that later, in any participatory process that we generate, or that they themselves generate, we can directly boost participation. So I would turn the tables, not only to promote participation, but to generate a society that is directly interested and perhaps know how to listen, and not, just as Antonia commented, for citizens to be willing to come to meetings where the councillor listens to them. I think it's the other way around. I think that from institutions, we have to be willing to listen to what citizens also demand from us. So that in the sense too, we have to get the themes right, but not the themes, rather surely the possibility of offering open spaces so that debates can be generated directly around issues that may interest citizens. Not only to arrive with pre-packaged topics, but to go directly to listen what citizens are demanding. So, excuse me, but I've turned it around a little, and I think that debate is also interesting to work on. Maria Pia, I can't hear you. Are you on the... Well, look, but you're all quiet. You saw me moving my lips, and they have tremendous authority. I'm saying that before giving the floor to Tuca, we welcome Guadalupe. We had seen you before. We saw that you joined. So welcome to the meeting. Thank you, Maria. I'm connecting a bit late because we had a prior meeting. I belong to the Secretariat of Planning and Citizen Participation of the state of Jalisco, Mexico. It's a pleasure. I'm listening to you here, and thank you very much for the welcome. Very well. So with Guadalupe joining, we were already kind of planning our activities. We've taken stock a bit. We do have the work fairly oriented, but now we're seeing what topics, if at some point you think of any, could be of interest for carrying out an activity during the coming year, or what good practices already implement we want to share with others, or we ask others to share with us. Isuka, I've seen that you're very active in the chat. It's great. Very well. Here, every possible channel helps. Tell us. Well, following what Mikhail was saying, which I think we were on the same wavelength in what we want to express, one of the things I also wanted to comment in the survey, but since I do suffer, I don't know if it's a digital divide or a mental divide, I hit the button before the right time. Another thing I would really like is to share a session about schools of participation. And I'll explain why, okay? Because picking up on what Mikhail was saying, participation is evolving and taking other forms. One of the big strengths that I love about Participatory Group is that people from different countries participate with different participation idiosyncrasies. I think that is super enriching. And so, of course, in the situation I find myself in, for example, to give my case, is that there's an absolute 1980s style trend that assumes that participating means complaining, right? Participating is not complaining. I mean, okay, I already know about dog poop. Tell me something else, right? So I would also like it to be possible, because I'm trying to set up a school of participation, and honestly, I don't know where to start with. I would also like there to be a session to share experiences from people in all the countries who have created schools of participation, so that they can explain how they did it and give the rest of us ideas, because I do think it is necessary, as Mikhail also said, to change a bit the way we have approached many things up to now. Society is no longer what it was. We are in different situations, we have different schedules, we have different lifestyles, and we have an intergenerational conflict around participation. And I say conflict knowingly, because it slows down the civic involvement of the new generations coming behind. So, if it were also possible, please, even though my cyber finger when I entered that idea, I would love that. Thank you very much. Well, I don't know if Mentimeter is still working, but I just wrote your idea. Suppose it's still open, right? I added yours for you, Isuka. I don't know if it will accept it, but anyway, we'll note it down. We have the open government school in the open government plan where, yes, it's open, right? Yeah, it's already in Isuka. We're in the fourth plan, have also merged all these dissemination activities, school, training, including this participatory group, right? But also other actions under what we have called the Open Government School. Because the Directorate General for Transparency has also joined us, and they also carry out many awareness activities outreach to groups. I think it's a fantastic topic, and it's the foundation, the base, really. There have to be foundations. Open government and participation in solid structures, a very strong civil society fabric as well. But for all that, you also need, besides tools and structures, one of the bases is training, right? And I always say it, you have to start there. And it's never too late. That is, there are things we assume everyone knows, and they don't. We have to keep training and raising awareness. Both the administrative culture and the culture of civil society also, we have to explain very well their rights, their benefits, the usefulness. Because you were talking about participation fatigue. But of course, if the topics don't interest them, we insist they participate in topics that may not actually interest them. What a difference it makes when you launch a process that really matters. You have everyone there, and then the next week you launch a process that maybe you have to launch because it's prior consultation for a regulation. But it's so dull that nobody participates because it doesn't interest them. Well, that's also what we have to look at, right? But anyway, very good. I don't know if anyone else, and if not, we'll start going around with the new ones. Since they're new, we're going to ask them. Can we share the results so we can see the ideas of it? Already or any more? I don't know who has them. Rafael Valdivieso has his hand raised while you share them, Rafael. Tell us. Hi, hello. The truth is that you're making very interesting contributions. The latest ones for me are essential. It is not that we should create schools participation, it's what we should try to bring to the conflict of participation into schools. This society doesn't know how to educate for participation, at least as I understand it. Participation is nothing other than a commitment to the society you live in. You have to be educated from a young age, from childhood, that you have the responsibility to improve or maintain the living conditions of your community in the best possible way. And you have to do it with principles, with values. We live in a society that is absolutely conditioned by wealth, by money. And we've already reached a point where society seemingly doesn't care what it has to do in order to get money, even if it means lying, right? When in reality, that is not the path, at least not the path that I have experienced. I'm 60 years old and I've been living this way since I was 10, right? The dynamic should be to contribute and to try for everyone to live in a dignified way. That community-minded vision is key. So people aren't interested because we have been educating a society where the only thing that matters is consuming, not contributing, but consuming. And I think we have to try to make people aware that the most exemplary way, I believe, to go through this life is to try to be useful to others and to build a community. A community that is fair, egalitarian, supportive, where we respect one another. And having said that, having given this speech that may sound very, very old-fashioned, already feels very old, I believe it's still true. But the issue is that I don't know how to do it. That is a reality. As I say, from a very young age, I've lived with the principle, trying to ensure that the neighborhood where I live, which place where we know each other, for us to care for each other, for us to help each other. And then professionally for many years now, I also see it from the perspective of administration. From the perspective of the administration, we are not able to find the key. And believe me, in Valladolid, we have tried. We have really tried. We've had a school of participation in the last few years, in the last 8 years, in which we have worked very hard to leave no stone unturned to find people interested in participating. But people are not interested in participating. They're interested in asking, in consuming, in having things done for them. And they have no motivation for what I'm telling you. motivation for being useful to the community. I'm sorry to send such a pessimistic message, but I'm sending it after having worked my ass off on this, both from the administrative perspective and from the personal perspective. So we have to rethink it, but it's not easy at all. Well, Raphael, but what are we here for? To encourage you to share other experiences. Not always will everything be positive, but rest assured that there are many positive experiences. There are. I don't know if there's any intervention from the new editions. Come on. This is Manu Militarig. Gabriel, I don't know if you want to say something, Guadalupe. Gabriel? Next, then you go, Guadalupe, tell us. Thank you. I don't know if it was already mentioned, but right here in Jalisco, we also have the situation of difficulty in participation. What we are doing is going out a little more to the regions, being more with the community. But I wonder if it would help us to have workshops on how to design participatory strategies that are novel, appropriate, because sometimes the strategies we offer from the departments are not the most appropriate. They're not the most attractive. So maybe these participatory ones could really have, I don't know, a focus on the community topic. And I agreed with what Antonia was commenting just now, that citizens want to see results from participation. So precisely, like in this whole cycle of participation, of how to publicize it and how to share the results of said participation so that people can know about it, allowing it to become a virtuous circle of, I know that my participation has weight. And that I'm not only listened to, because we listen a lot sometimes. I mean, sometimes we have limited participation to listening. I listen, yes, but what resonance does this have? And what result does it have if people see that there is a result from participating? I think that is where we have fallen short in many cases, at least here, sometimes closing the circle, right? Like, yeah, great, you participated, but what came of it? Or did it get left as an audio stored in a plan in a document? They want to know what happened, right? So participatory strategies that help us to really help people solve social problems. Totally agree, Guadalupe. I mean, the key is first that it is useful and that it is fulfilled and that there are results. Because if not, there is brutal frustration for people. And then the other thing you said is that it should also be more enjoyable. Some experiences, as you said, novel ones. I have noticed also even in spaces you go to that you really have to innovate it. Also in the way of interacting, of course. It is true that you have to have formal spaces that are sometimes more bureaucratic and which are necessary, but you cannot leave them as the only place where these things can happen. I mean, you have to have a series of spaces which are very regulated. Gabriel, I've always told you several times, so I think that if you want to say something about what we have commented on, Gabriel already. He hasn't heard me. Did the rest hear me? Hello? Yes, we can't hear. Now? Now, yes? Oh, I thought you were ignoring me. No, 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 no. It cut out there. I was like, oh, what happened? Well, no. For us, this whole conversation is very interesting. Mainly to us to give some context, we're a provincial government. In our province, there are 427 municipalities and communes, 427 local governments, and most are under 10,000 inhabitants. What's more, there are 200 that have under 2,000 inhabitants. In this context, we as a province have been working on issues of, just now they were saying, an initiative by Nelson Diaz from the organization that had to do with citizen security. We have something called Eyes on Alert, in which citizens themselves set guidelines of criminal probabilities, of criminalities, and they make contact and end up reaching the police or security. But independently of that, I think the discussion also, well, we've talked about it before, in the discussion participation, independently of that, I think that we are missing is to really identify whether there is a need that warrants participation. Because I was commenting the other day in the meeting saying, oh, okay, I want there to be participation because I'm a democratic government, and we are moving toward participation. And let's make people participate. And in all public policies, there has to be citizen participation. And then we get there, and as Maria Pia was saying, people do not participate if it doesn't really interest them. So I think the big challenge is in identifying precisely the need that warrants participation. Sometimes people don't just come out saying, hey, I want to participate in this. You have to carry out a process of identifying needs. But here we are proposing with the municipalities and communes was that because there were many municipalities that came and told me, hey, I want to do participatory budgeting. Fine, I say. And the participatory culture of your town, what is it like? Nobody wants to participate. And why are you going to do a participatory budgeting? So if nobody wants to participate, you're going to introduce a tool that your community is not yet prepared to advance in that sense. So what we did was start to think before. Okay, let's first generate the participatory culture. So I think that independently of the fact that it was just commented that schools, doing participation in schools and in education, which is what everything ends up, almost all the public policy we want to build ends up being in a formal education program that establishes the guidelines and parameters and everything to be able to move forward from youth onward. But I also think it has more to do with finding the challenge of finding how we can, more than educate, train or create this idea that participation implies better public policies. But it also has to be in the territory. I think that it's very important that I have to do it with the people, but also at a political level, right? Because also, what is the benefit? It is very difficult for many politicians to understand what the benefit they get through participation is. Because the more you participate, the more you open the municipality or the locality. And the more you open it up, the more they get scared. So, also, part of political education or political training is something at the level of political decision making that we have to take it into account because we sometimes take it for granted. Uh, we love participation, yes, we are moving towards that path, but many do not love participation for participation itself, but rather for, oh, okay, it's good, it gives me political returns. So finding that balance between the citizens' need to participate and the knowledge and the political support is what I think we could debate a bit more and find some synergies. Very well. Manuel also has his hand raised. Manuel, how are you doing? Good afternoon. I was just thinking, I had a look at the Participatory Group book from Vitoria from when I was there in the activity, and in the end, we couldn't finish because we were leading a non-conference there. It's true that you were the mayor. Forgive me. I didn't remember. Manuel, the thing is that we split, a small parenthesis, we did a super fun dynamic in which there were journalists, civil society, each one representing someone. And Manuel was the mayor we were putting to the test. But then a women's group came in and we ended up having a mayoress. So really, very critically, you were replaced, Manuel. Yes, totally. My turn was quick. It was agile. Well, it wasn't really the point because, well, we couldn't be at the closing of the activity because we were precisely leading an unconference called Waiting for Godot, the participation that never arrives. And in the activity, well, there were people from Latin America, people from Belgium, from across Europe, from Brazil. And I was sort of reviewing in my notebook the conclusions that had come out. And the title ended up transforming into Waiting for Childhood's The Hope of Citizen Participation. And there, I do want to pick up a bit on what Rafael said, because I personally believe that sociologically we are facing a serious problem in terms of communications. And especially because of this little device that tends to generate a narcissistic generation that doesn't register others. And so it seems to me that the problem is more serious. Participation today, that is understood as it is understood in political science, the common good, or thinking about another person, seems as if people only participate, as was discussed a lot in that activity, when it is something that interests them or affects them directly in their personal lives. I don't know. My neighborhood, traffic increases, so I go and participate because it affects my life, and not because of registering another person or public matter. And so we are like in a kind of atomized, disconnected society with this little phone. So it should be, I would say, like a public health, this issue of phones and schools and so on. And I propose this idea of going back to square one, going back to occupying physical spaces, looking each other's in the face, chatting, talking. It may sound almost absurd what I'm saying, but the truth is we hardly talk anymore. We don't look at each other's eyes. So I think that in smaller places and cities, there is a possibility of rehabilitating squares and generating physical participation. Because there is a lot of talk about platforms or digital participation, and it seems to me that the logic or the market tends to make us not participate, which is why I agree with Rafael. To consume more, to not register the other, and that goes against the logic of participation, the logic of the market. So, well, I was just reading the conclusions and that came up. Waiting for childhood's the hope of participation. Very good. Manuel, thank you. Excellent. Well done, Mayor. I don't know if there's any other intervention. There may have been others as well. We'll gather everything you've written in the chat, I think. Has there been any good practice that Tisoka mentioned, right? If you want to comment on it properly. I would like to ask a question. Because Mariela and Bruno from the government of the autonomous city of Buenos Aires have been here for some time now. A long time ago, Buenos Aires told us a bit about its participation strategy. But now, with the new stage, maybe you could tell us a bit about what you're thinking now. Because Buenos Aires is a very large municipality. How you see this issue of moving from in-person initiatives to digital participation? What are you doing? What are you planning to do? If you could tell us something. Yeah, well, to begin with, we basically have two axes through which we are carrying out citizen participation in the city. It's not a proximity plan. It is basically meetings with the head of government, who would be our city governor because the city has a provincial character, and a provincial one, and the cabinet. All the ministers hold weekly meetings, and this has more of a social accountability purpose. Accountability. There are also certain individual needs that arise in those meetings, and the incentive for neighbors and citizens is precisely their individual problem. So that type of meeting is a group of people who go for their own niche. Let's say their initiative is that what they want to solve, and they see that the minister is responsible for the issue. That problem generates an inertia whereby even a second or third round is held by neighborhood. So they wait for feedback and new neighbors emerge. And the audience with the minister or head of government keeps renewing itself. So it has its own inertia. That, fortunately, is fairly way old. And then we have another axis, which would be the participatory processes, which are mainly new projects from government areas where participation is carried out precisely in order to validate and make modifications. We have informational dynamics with minor modifications, because sometimes it is an issue like Green Street, where there's not much modification of a project that environmentally is positive, and maybe some suggestions are made. And then we have many instances of co-creation where we give neighbors 100% of the opportunity. So there you may have more incentive for organized groups that are interested in certain topics. Environmentalists, for example, they attend a lot of plaza creation projects to the detriment of many neighbors who live in the area, who may not be affected by it, but do not have an individual incentive to attend. This is common. So sometimes the audience keeps repeating itself in some cases. There's like the two major axes of proximity and citizen participation that we currently have in the city. Thank you very much for the information. The truth is that some time ago you presented a beautiful project on the topic of the riverfront, our participatory project that was carried out in Buenos Aires some years ago, and we found it very interesting. And also hearing now a bit about how you have changed the structure of participation and what you're doing now is very interesting to us. So thank you very much. I don't know either if any of the people who haven't spoken yet would like to comment now a bit on the topic of interests or how you see your participation needs in light of everything that has been discussed here. Well, a bit about the problem around getting people to participate. On the other hand, how to deal with these changes in society. Nelson, I don't know if from your office in Portugal you can tell us how you see these changes in society. Also, since you move a lot across different cities and countries, what are you seeing in terms of participation? What is changing? Well, truly, many things are children, right? A great many things are changing, and the debate I was listening to about in-person versus virtual participation is a permanent tension. I would say, and I understand that the future will be hybrid, right? It will not be only in person, not only virtual. It'll have to be hybrid because the moment we live in is also a paradoxical moment, right? It is not technology that is going through a crisis, it is democracy. And in one hand, we have fascination with technology, artificial intelligence, and everything, the novelties we see. And the other hand, disenchantment with democracy. So I think we will continue along a path where and that means that participation will also have to adapt to that hybrid context. That means that it is inevitable to promote participatory processes through platforms. I believe is inevitable, and it is not a problem. We have to take advantage of the opportunity, but I think it is necessary to balance technology with in-person participation. Because today's societies are complex, diverse. There is no single social profile. There are many profiles within our communities, and that means that in order to reach different profiles, we will have to look for different channels. And in-person participation is more important, more accessible for some people, while others prefer the virtual format. And I think we will have to be capable of conceiving and implementing methodologies to integrate diversity and create different options for those who wish to participate. So I believe this is an important challenge for the future that we are already facing, which is how to balance this between the virtual and the digital. And both are necessary. I also believe that in recent times, years, other challenges have emerged with methodologies such as citizens' assemblies, which are being implemented in many places within a more deliberative democracy logic, which is not the same as participatory democracy, where participatory budgets and all the other tools that allow decisions on public investments. We also know that the participatory budgets are not spaces that allow deep reflection on territorial problems because they are tools more focused on urgency, meaning what investment is needed right now. And that is why I believe we also have to balance participatory budgets, which are a success, as we already know worldwide. But it is important to diversify methodologies So that, for example, in some areas, we have spaces for greater depth, reflection, learning, and debate and deliberation. And today, there are other tools for that, such as citizen assemblies. So, to conclude, I would say that I believe that the path must be diversity, the multiplication of spaces for participation within the coherent logic that is within the participation system. And I believe that this is the path that our local administrations should seek in the future. And please excuse my Spanish. Oh, perfect. My goodness. We wish we could. Now let's say it in Portuguese. I would like to add something if you'd allow me, Maria Pia. I completely agree with Nelson. I think that participation is a reality and that it actually emerged as a form of citizen protest, as a response to political systems of representative democracy with shortcomings. So, well, it gained a lot of strength there, and now, normatively and legally, it is practically regulated in many countries. It is a reality we are faced with, one we have to deal with, because we could ask the essential question: do we eliminate participation and that's it, and continue like 100 years ago? But it seems that no one questions that, right? It is a reality that is already integrated, and now we are confronted with, or you're transmitting it to us. It's a problem, right? Those of you who are on the front line, that's the fact that the citizens do not participate. That is to say, the initial rebellion has now turned into looking out for my own interests, technologies, mobile phones, youth, in short, somewhat along the lines of what Rafael was saying, which is certainly a bit pessimistic, but I understand the underlying reflection. But since this is a reality and we have to take it into account and see how to manage it as best as possible, I think that's, well, my experience based on reading and everything tells me that we are in a moment of change since COVID, or now, well, with AI and all that. These years are precisely a moment of change and a moment in which we need to see how to face this and where we're going. I think there will not be a single solution, as Nelson was saying. There is no single solution. Therefore, for me, the most important thing is diagnosis. That is, seeing what we want to do in each case and with each actors, with whom we are working with, right? And then, based on that, define the participation process, define the tools, define the methodology, because it does not have to be the same at all if it is with children, with young children, with people with disabilities, or well, so precisely diagnosis, which may seem like just another thing, I believe is fundamental. Fundamental in order to get it right. A very good diagnosis. Perhaps dedicating more time to diagnosis and really seeing what is wanted, what resources are available, and who is aimed at. And what is intended with the process, of course. And then, as Inuka also said in one of the examples she posted in the chat, communicating with the results to the citizens who participated. That is the next fundamental point, because that is what gives legitimacy to the process and allows people involved to see that there are effective results and that they are real, sometimes more, sometimes less, but that they are there, right? So I believe that both diagnosis and communication of results, that is kind of evaluation, right? But a positive evaluation aimed at citizens are the two fundamental elements for the success of this. Nothing more. I just want to add this. Very well. I don't know, perhaps, Marta, you could masterfully give a bit of a summary of everything that has been discussed. Are, are you on mute, Marta? Yes, you have no sound. Yes, thank you. Sorry. Well, thank you, Maria Pia and Luis, for leading and conducting this meeting. It is not easy at all to synthesize, because the truth is that the richness of the contributions today has been impressive. First of all, I think I would highlight, as Isuka said, that the participatory group is a meeting place. It's a community where we can come together, where we can open our eyes and ears and be able to compare. to discuss, and to verbalize frustrations and aspirations as well, many times, which I believe are key, as well as strategic planning, joys, and sorrows. That's on the one hand, right? That's to say, participation, or the participatory group, what it is and how it has been for the last 5 years as a meeting place. On the other hand, materially speaking, in terms of content, I think that there has been an evolution. It is true that we maintain a body of good practices, which we really like, because I think that participation is so demanding that we have to highlight everything that moves forward and works well, so as not to be defeatist. So I think there's a shared underlying base that we've all highlighted and that we're all part of. And that from UNED, what we often do is act as collectors, right? I feel like a trend collector in order to be able to then channel them into the participatory group. So that is also what we aspire to channel into especially the radio programs and the workshops, all those good practices. And then in the work groups, which is something we had not mentioned, and a bit of the final touch, this year we wanted to give the work groups another twist. So the work group is clearly distinguished from the workshop. Our challenge, and here we will have to work more ourselves, is really that there is no speaker. So we need there to be a topic, but not a speaker. That is, there may be a backup speaker, a bullet in the chamber per se, but really that in the work of a group, what's proposed are very specific topics, questions, and discussions in which we all get involved, where the work group truly becomes the meeting place around the topic, rather than something that may be a practice, well, it could be a practice behind it, but squeezing more value out of that meeting moment that is not just recorded and in which, as we are saying, we can both share what works well and also our frustrations with it. So, as I was saying, that challenge, that shared foundation that is still there, I think that another traits or part of the DNA of the participatory group is its joy and its enthusiasm, how we all feel and vibrate for participation. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, would we? And I think that remains and is maintained. And it's also thanks to the team and to the trust that the Madrid City Council has placed in UNED, that we ourselves have also been coming together as a work group. So for us, this is really a very enriching experience as university lecturers. And then to finish, as the last thing, moving forward, I think Mentimeter is essential because even though we are collectors, we also need, as happened today, all of your wisdom, your practice, your perspective, and that tension in which we live, which I think Susanna has also conveyed, and which you will see in the MOOC, you will see, it will show that tension, won't it? That tension we are currently living between face-to-face, hybridization, mass models, more one-to-one models. There's no single solution or universal recipe for participation, but rather many methodologies and tools. And nothing more, honestly. It is a pleasure, a dream come true to be able to continue together on this path. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Marta, and everyone. I will just say that, also reaffirm with what Luis Rodriguez has expressed magnificently well in the chat. Do not forget that we love acting as facilitators. I'm going to read it because I love it. If you want to launch a project or initiative and would like to receive the support or opinions of the TPG community by commenting, we're all ears. As Luis said, and I repeat it, and honestly, look, it's true that we have built a team, Marta. That trip to Vitoria was wonderful for us too. We had a great time. Face-to-face matters a lot as well. We've become more of a team and we are better than ever. And really looking forward to being able to have even more in-person meetings. It was a pleasure to see you all. our Mayor Manuel as well, and everyone else. So a very big kiss to all of you, and here we are to help you. And we say goodbye. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you very much. Take care. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Hug. Bye.